Primetime local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with a homicide that is currently being investigated by the Lloydminster RCMP and the Alberta Major Crimes Unit. RCMP responded to an assault near 44th Street and 42nd Avenue on August 14th at approximately 3 a.m. The victim, Trevor Owen Tudusis, was transported to the Lloydminster Hospital with life-threatening injuries, where he later succumbed to his injuries and died in hospital. We will provide an update when more information is released. Lloyd Mall has been temporarily closed to the public due to flooding, which has caused water damage to many of its businesses. Now, after a hard year with the pandemic, one local business hopes things will get back on track as soon as possible. Our Shelby Clark has the story.
Local business Hair Den in the Lloyd Mall has seen its obstacles in the last year and even in the last month, with a power outage also affecting them. Owner Kelly Hamden says all tenants in the mall are hoping to see it open in the next few days.
Just with back to school coming up and, people are coming off vacation and holidays, it's a really busy time for not only us as a hair salon and other hair salons in Lloyd, it's a busy time for just Lloyd in general. So it'd be nice that, the mall would open up sometime this week, but, you can't win them all.
Although with the flooding issue now impacting business, Hamden says support has always been strong from Lloyd residents, even through COVID-19.
Thinking back in May when we reopened, thinking that, a lot of people weren't going to come out and support and everyone would kind of be scared of everything. But ever since May and even till now that restrictions are gone, it was been very good. And, I can't thank the community and everyone else in Lloyd that has supported us over the past year and for the fact of the past 25 years, in fact. But no, I really grateful for everything.
Since the mall has closed on Sunday, they released an official statement on their Facebook page saying they are continuing to investigate the issue but suspect a water line broke overnight. They also added that they have 2 restoration companies with 20-plus crew members working on site to deal with the damage. Hamden believes that patience in this situation is key, and in the meantime, while the flood is being handled, he plans to take care of the loss of wages for his staff.
Accidents happen. Obviously, this accident kind of came in at a bad time, but just be patient with everything and hope that everything goes well.
As you can see here, the mall will be closed until further notice, but management will inform the public as soon as they have more information available. For Primetime Local News, I'm Shelby Clark.
As work continues on the relocation of the Lloydminster Public Library from the Atrium Center to the Lloyd Mall, City Council was presented with an MOU between the city and the library. Jace Mackey has more on the agreement and how it's expected to improve the library's relationship with the city.
The Lloydminster Public Library is expected to reopen to the public at their new location in Lloyd Mall soon. While work is still being done on the renovations, the city has also been working on a memorandum of understanding with the library. The MOU would help define the relationship between the city and the library board.
By doing the MOU, we formalize that relationship so the library board, who sets the direction of the library, has clear understanding what the city is prepared to commit to, and the city understands what the library board is delivering.
Some of the high priority services highlighted in the MOU include a commitment from the city to inspect the library, manage warranty repairs, and provide custodial services. The city's communications department will put $10,000 towards the library's communication and marketing. The city will also provide internal training to library staff. Computers and IT equipment will also be supplied by the city. Mayor Gerald Albers believes this policy will add much needed clarity.
I know other council members that have sat on the library board have heard from the library. They'd like a little further clarification, understanding, and this brings it. And I think that's what most people like. It's clear, it's transparent, and it's open, and that's what they're looking for.
The MOU also pulls the library's budget in line with the city's financial processes to make auditing easier. The document still needs to be approved by City Council and the library board. It would be in place until June 2025 and will hopefully clarify the responsibilities of both parties.
Now that you have a governing document, a policy, if there's questions, what does the policy say? So you go back to the policy.
For Primetime Local News, I'm Jace Mackey.
Now Shelby Clark will take a first look at your weather forecast.
Thanks so much, Jasmine. Now taking a first look at your weather forecast here in the border city. We are sitting at 19 degrees with a lot more cloudier skies today, so we are definitely cooling down a bit this week compared to before, but we are seeing around 19 kilometers winds coming in today, so it is a bit windy today, but as we move on through the week, we will see a bit warmer temperatures as we go on through the week. Now looking at temperatures across the region here on the Alberta side, Provost is at a high of 16 degrees, Wainwright, Vermilion, Vegreville are at 19 degrees, as well as in Cold Lake. Bonnyville is at 17 degrees, as well as St. Paul and Lac La Biche and Edmonton are at 18 degrees. And here on the Saskatchewan side here, Isle Cross is at 14 degrees, couple degrees cooler. Green Lake is at 15, while Meadow Lake is at 20 degrees. Pierceland is at 16, and St. Walburg is at 17, and Maidstone and North Battleford are at that 19 to 18 degrees there. But speaking of North Battleford, as we look at it overnight, they will be going to a low of 5 degrees, so we are cooling down a bit overnight for these next couple nights here, getting a bit cooler, but they will see clear skies and a little clearer skies and a low of 5 degrees overnight, and tomorrow they will pick it up to a high of 20 degrees and a mix of some sun and cloud there. Now looking at Cold Lake, they'll be dropping down to a low of 4 degrees overnight, but they will see cloudier skies, and tomorrow they will as well pick it up to a high of 22 degrees with a lot more sun peeking behind those clouds. And here in Lloydminster, we will be going down to a low of 5 degrees as well with a little bit cloudier skies, so make sure you're getting bundling up and getting a bit warmer. Maybe get more of the heat on instead of the AC if you are used to sleeping a little bit warmer there. And tomorrow we'll be going to a high of 20 degrees with a mix of some sun and cloud. But moving into our 3-day forecast here, Thursday we'll see a high of 17 degrees as well as on Friday, and a low of 7 on Thursday and a low of 10 degrees. And on Thursday we will be seeing a mix of some sun and cloud there, and Friday we'll see a little bit more sun. That is our first look at your weather forecast though, and we'll have more news coming up after the break.
Welcome back. With September approaching quickly, I spoke with the Bonnyville District Chamber of Commerce on how the summer was for businesses and now they're helping community members.
I'm joined here now with Serena Parsons, the Executive Director of the Bonnyville and District Chamber of Commerce. How has it been throughout the summer for businesses in the area and with restrictions lifted?
So, of course, the restrictions being lifted is a great boost economically, and we're really happy to be able to see businesses reopening at full capacity and running, their businesses. But that doesn't come without its issues. Right now, we have there's a real labor shortage, and across all sectors. Businesses have reopened, but it's been very difficult to find workers to come in and work. So, I really want to remind the public to please be patient, especially when you're doing anything within the service sector, restaurants, retail, that these people are showing up, and the struggle and the labor shortage is a real issue right now, and it's been very difficult. So have patience when you're supporting local.
And what does the summer look like for the chamber, more specifically, events and support?
So we have, honestly, on August 6th, we really kicked off the reopening and events with our chili cook-off, and people were ready. People were ready to come out in droves. It's a really fun event where businesses have a bit of a team building. They cook chili on site, and then the public comes out to try the chili, taste it, and it's always a really fun event. But this year the turnout was exceptional, and people were really excited to come out. Then recently, Friday past, we just had our golf scramble. So once again, great turnout, great registration. It's been great to kind of get back to business as normal in so many ways, and we got a lot planned for the upcoming months as well. We've got our AGM happening on September 1st. We're going to get back to having earn events and great speakers so as that our businesses, and we're going to be doing some of those in person, so as that businesses can get their employees back into training. But again, with that labor shortage, it's really difficult for a business to consider additional training, because right now they're just working on the day-to-day operations, and that's been a struggle. So we want to help with that. And we are planning a large Christmas expo and trade show event. So we're really excited to be able to do that for this year, right around the holidays, of course. That being said, though, I do want to remind everyone that chambers of commerce, of course, are much more than events, and we do so much more than that.
Speaking of that, for people who maybe don't know, could you just explain what the chamber does and what supports you guys do provide?
So we advocate. We advocate for our businesses on all levels of government, municipally, provincially, federally. So these issues that I've touched on regarding the labor shortage, this vaccine passport requirements for possible vaccinations with various organizations and sectors, all of that. So we poll our members, we talk to the public, and we say, hey, what have your challenges been? What can we do to help increase government services, to help them recruit, to whatever's necessary? We try to find what the source of the issue is and then help solve that issue through the powers that be, whether that be municipally, again, provincially or federally. But we'll be doing some surveys. Some really important surveys are going to be coming out soon. It is very important. I want to remind all businesses that if you've been struggling with something, whether it be labor shortage, whether it be accessing government programming or funding, contact your local chamber of commerce. We are here for you, and we do relay those messages up the chain, and that's where the difference is made. So we do advocate diligently all the time, and that's the biggest part of why we are here and what we do. For example, I do have a report for the Alberta Chambers of Commerce right now. We just did a labor shortage survey, so all of this information comes out on what businesses need, and then this goes right to the powers that be, and that comes from your local chambers. We are the ones that plan your political forums. So we will have at the Bonnyville Chamber of Commerce, we will be doing 3 political forums. Of course, we'll be doing our federal coming up probably the first couple of weeks in September, and then we'll be doing 2 municipal political forums in October before the municipal elections. So it's a very busy time, but I always encourage people to please educate yourselves on the candidate before you go out to the polls. Know their stance, know what they're representing. Especially now, there's a lot of hot topic issues, and people need to know who they're casting their vote for. And so educate yourselves, and you know what, we will be sharing a lot of information on our Bonnyville Facebook page, and doing everything we can to get information out so people can make an educated and informed decision.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Serena.
Thank you so much, Jasmine. I really appreciate it. And I would like to add that with the very heated issues, I've mentioned those hot topics that are coming out right now. Please remember to be kind, and that everyone has a different perspective. And it's important that we all work together and come together as a community. So let's keep anger out of it, and let's just try and educate ourselves and make our own best decisions.
Now here are your stock market prices for today.
Today's oil prices are brought to you by First General Services.
This past July, the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef announced 3 goals which are designed to help the beef industry become more sustainable worldwide. Our agriculture reporter Jillian Code has the details.
Today, I am joined by Rory Peter. He is the Executive Director of the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef. Now, Rory, this is a global roundtable, so your guys' mission is to help aid in sustainability for beef productions all over the world. And you guys have 3 goals to help achieve that. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So there are 3 goals, each one really with a target date of 2030, and there are some interim dates to measure them by and make sure that we're on track. But the first one is around climate, and it's to reduce the climate impact of beef by 30% by 2030. And the second one is around nature positive production. So trying to make the beef industry a net positive contributor to nature by 2030. And the third one is around animal health and welfare, which is giving animals a good life and ensuring that they are basically having their needs met, and we are adhering to the OIE's standards for animal welfare by 2030 as well.
So for the everyday farmer wanting to, make a difference on their cattle operation, what can they do to help achieve that?
There are lots of things, and it depends, of course, where you're starting from. But for the guy who's got a cow-calf operation, just ensuring that those cows are getting in calf every year, that's a huge factor, because for every cow that doesn't get in calf, you're producing those same methane emissions, but you're not producing any beef. So that's it's all about reproductive management, reproductive health of the herd, making sure they've got the right nutrition, making sure that your grazing management is good. There are a ton of things to do, and they're going to vary from producer to producer. But that's why you've got advisory services around the world who are helping people to do a better job.
Absolutely. And as you said, there's multiple ways to mitigate, the amount of emissions that come from the beef industry. Let's talk, research and technology. What do you think the next big push in regards to emissions and sustainability with the beef industry would be?
Well, you'll probably be aware of the fact that there are a few additives that you can add to feed which will modify the rumen flora. And some of these are already commercially available, and some of them are in development. The ones that are currently available can lead to a reduction in emissions of methane from the rumen, so enteric emissions, but of about 30%, which is already a good step in the right direction. There are some that have been trialed based on a seaweed called Asparagopsis taxiformis, and that seaweed, when harvested at the right stage and when prepared in the right way, can actually lead to even higher reductions in the order of 85%, which would be a huge breakthrough. But clearly there are some other issues there, because we don't have all that seaweed, and we need the logistics to get it to people and so on. But it's really interesting that is possible. And I think that is going to be an area of research that people spend a lot of time on in the coming years, and hopefully make progress with.
And sustainability within the beef sector, I know at least within Canada and the United States, there's a lot of focus on what are the alternatives to that. We're going to Beyond Meat or plant-based alternatives when we're talking about sustainability, but there may be a little bit more than meets the eye.
Well, I think one of the things that needs to be recognized widely is the positive contribution of grazing ruminants, and particularly in Canada and the northern Great Plains of the US as well. They need grazing ruminants to sustain those grasslands and the biodiversity of those grasslands, and to keep putting carbon back in the soil where it belongs. So there's definitely a very positive role for grazing cattle to play. And that's something I think people should be talking about and saying, okay, well, there are issues around methane that we're working on, but it's not all a negative story. They're actually really positive stories about benefiting from cattle.
That was all the questions that I had. Are there any other aspects of this that you think are important to touch on?
All of those plant-based products, they still have a lot to demonstrate to the world to really prove that they're any better. I mean, both in terms of sustainability, because when you plow soil, you release a lot of carbon. You will not get that carbon back into the soil until it reverts to grassland. And also in terms of nutrition. A product that's made of 26 different ingredients that we don't normally eat and haven't been used to eating, as compared to a product which is one wholesome ingredient from an animal, I think it's a question, and I'm sure there's been a lot of work done on it, and there will continue to be so. But I wouldn't just take it on the word of the guy who's producing the product. We need to have independent people looking at these things and saying, well, okay, there's a balance here. And it's a food system. There's a role for cattle, there's a role for livestock. If you look globally, half of the fertilizer we use to grow our crops is actually animal manure. So if we stop using animals, where are we going to get that manure to grow our crops from? It's a system, and I think that's what people tend to forget. They look very black and white and say, oh, this is better than that. And I'm saying, actually, those two things work quite nicely together.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Now we'll take a look at your egg prices. This past weekend, the CPCA saw their final stop in Meadow Lake ahead of the Canadian Championship. 3 days of racing in Meadow Lake shook up the standings, where now the top drivers are separated by just 30 points. Evan Kenny and Greg Buchanan have more ahead of the finals.
Well, the time has come. The CPCA 2021 season is coming to a close with one final weekend coming up here in Lloydminster, the CPCA finals. Joining me to break this down is Greg Buchanan. Greg, thank you for taking this time and joining me.
Thanks for having me, Evan.
Now, obviously, exciting time in the world of chuck wagons. Last weekend, we saw a big mix-up when it comes to the standings in the CPCA. And ahead of last week, I had asked you who you thought was possibly a dark horse going into the weekend. Greg, you gave me the answer of Preston Faithful. And wow, were you ever right on that call?
Yeah, it doesn't happen too often, Evan. So mark that down. But Preston's been coming on. And I felt, things are bound to happen for a reason. And he's a passionate guy. He's a driven individual. He goes into Meadow Lake and he wins a day money on Saturday. He wins another day money with pressure on him heading into this championship Sunday to hold on to that show lead coming off the number one barrel. So what does he do? He puts up another day money win. So great to see. And Preston sitting 7th right now in the driver standings and an outside shot at getting in the top 4. But if you told him, Preston at the start of the season, you're going to be 7th going into the CPCA finals. You'll have 3 day money wins. You'll have a show win. Are you going to be happy? Yeah, he would say you'd be pretty happy.
And it's hard not to be happy, with any win you can get on the tour here. Greg, those 6 drivers ahead of Preston in the standings currently sit Ryan Baptiste tied for first with Todd Baptiste, both at 853 points, 0.5. Jamie Labacane in 3rd, Logan Gorse in 4th, and then Danny Ringette and BJ Carey in 5th and 6th, all within about 30 points of one another. So a real scramble there. Now, obviously, everybody does want to get into that final group, that final dash for cash at the end of the day here, Greg. For those 4 guys who currently are sitting in those positions, just what do they have to do this week and weekend to stay solidified there?
See, it's a balancing act right now. If you're in that top 4, you want to stay in the top 4. And the way to stay in that top 4 is staying penalty free. Keep the barrels up. Make sure the outriders are in tow. But you also got to be fast. So you kind of walk that fine line where you, as they say in the sport, you want to pop out of the infield. You want to barrel very aggressively. But you got to make sure those things stay up. These 5 seconds can be a killer. Look at Logan Gorse. Goes into the weekend, sitting on top of the driver's standings. KO's a barrel on Friday in Meadow Lake. KO's a barrel again on Saturday. Ouch. All of a sudden, he's no longer in first. So that's how quickly it can turn on you in the driver standings when they're as tight as they are. And this is the tightest I have seen the driver standings heading into the final 5 days of the season for the crowning of a Canadian championship that I have seen in over 15 years. So it's great to see, and it's going to be great for the fans.
They've definitely came back, stronger than ever, you could even say here, Bucky. Now, for some of those drivers who are looking to get into those top 4 spots, what are a couple keys for them heading into this weekend?
Well, I think for a Danny Ringette, he has nothing to lose. He's just outside of the top 4. Throw him at him, and more than anything, the first 2 or 3 days is going to determine so much. Don't leave it to that final day on Saturday and you're sitting and you're looking at the driver standings and whether you're trying to get in the top 4 or stay in the top 12 for an invite to the North American Chuck Wagon Championship. Don't leave it to that last day. You got to build towards that Saturday, and it starts on tomorrow night.
Now, Bucky, like you said, starting Wednesday night here, races start rather at 6:30 every night except for Sunday. Sunday will start at 2 o'clock. What else can people expect, going to the Canadian Championships here this weekend, Bucky?
I think there's so many great storylines this season, from the 7 rookie drivers, making their debut in the CPCA. You have Gordon McCollum, a longtime driver in the CPCA. He's 65. So at the age of 65, he retires. So this will be his final trip on the track in the CPCA. And the other story that is BJ Carey. BJ Carey has decided to sell out. And in the sport of chuck wagons, when you sell out, that means I'm selling all my horses, my liners, everything. I'm retiring from the sport. But I don't know if BJ's absolutely on Sunday will be his final race on a chuck wagon track. I don't think so. I think BJ Carey's going to put a pause on things right now. And don't be surprised to hear from BJ Carey on a chuck wagon track years down the road. How long? Could be 2 years, could be 10 years. But I don't think we've heard the last of BJ Carey. And if people don't know, Ray Crowdle Jr. has purchased BJ Carey's outfits, and Ray Crowdle Jr. will be leading the horses that BJ Carey has on the track this week, going onward in his chuck wagon career.
Well, lots of different storylines to follow here moving forward. Definitely will be an exciting weekend. Greg, thank you very much for taking this time and joining me.
Thanks, Evan.
WHL training camps are expected to open in just a few weeks. Yesterday, the league announced it is adopting a mandatory COVID-19 vaccination policy this season. This includes all WHL players, staff, and other team and league office personnel, along with officials who work at ice level. They must be fully vaccinated for at least 14 days before the October 1st start of the regular season. The new policy does not extend to WHL fans. The league also strongly recommends players live in billet houses where those living are fully vaccinated. Canada's other two major junior leagues have already introduced similar measures. Now Shelby Clark will take another look at your weather forecast.
Thanks so much, Jasmine. Now taking a second look at your weather forecast here, we'll be starting off with taking a look at temperatures across central Alberta and Saskatchewan here. On the Alberta side, Rocky Mountain House is at 15 degrees, while Jasper is at 18 and Red Deer is at 14. 16 over in Edson, and the Whitecourt is at 17 degrees, while Athabasca and Edmonton are at 19 and 18. And now over on this side here, Prince Albert's at 19 degrees, while Meadow Lake is at a high at 20 degrees, as well as in Cold Lake. Melfort is at 17, and Saskatoon's a bit cooler at that 12-degree mark there, and North Battleford is at 18. But now taking a look at our northern region here in the provinces, over on this side they are a little bit cooler. At Wollaston Lake is at 11 degrees, while Stony Rapids and Uranium City are at 12 degrees there. South End and Flin Flon are at 16 and 17. La Ronge is at 15, and La Loche and Buffalo Narrows are at 17 degrees. Now over on this side, they're a little bit warmer there, with Grand Prairie and Slave Lake and Fort McMurray all at 19 degrees. Peace River and High Level are at 21 degrees, and Fort Chipewyan is at 16 degrees. Now taking a look at southern region there in our provinces here. Lethbridge is at 10 degrees and Medicine Hat is at 12 degrees. So they're a couple of degrees cooler here in the southern region, while Calgary is at 10 degrees as well, and Banff is at 7 degrees, and Coronation is at 15. And over on this side here, Kindersley is at 9 degrees, actually not even at that double mark there yet. Yorkton is at a little bit warmer at 22 degrees, and Regina is at 23, while Moose Jaw is at 22 as well, and Espon is the warmest at 29 degrees, while Swift Current is at 16. Now looking at temperatures overnight across the region, as I was saying before, that it will cool down to lower temperatures overnight now, with Meadow Lake at 1 degrees, a low of 1 degree overnight with a lot more cloudier skies. Isla Cross will be at 8 degrees overnight with a little clear skies there, but Pierceland will be cloudy as well with a low of 4 degrees, as well as in Bonnyville and Wainwright. Paradise Hill, Unity, and Myrna will be at a low of 5 degrees overnight, and Provost will be at a low of 6 degrees, while most places will see cloudier skies. Now looking at temperatures tomorrow across the region, as you can see, it will warm up a bit to a couple degrees warmer across the region, to between around 21 to 23 degrees in most places. So hopefully we will make it back up to those high 20 temperatures later on as we go through August here. And now looking at our 7-day forecast here, Wednesday we will see a high of 20 with a mix of some sun and cloud. Thursday we'll see a high of 17 with a lot more cloudier skies. Friday we'll be starting off this weekend. We're seeing a high of 17 as well on Friday, and we will be seeing that same temperature as we go on through the weekend and see a little bit of sun peeking behind those clouds on Friday and Saturday. But Sunday we will see more of a cloudier skies there with a higher chance of some precipitation there, around 55% on Sunday. And Monday we'll be starting off with some a high percent chance of some precipitation with a high of 14 and cloudier skies. And Tuesday, we will see a high of 16 with a mix of some sun and cloud. That is the second look at your weather forecast. We'll have more news coming up after the break.
Welcome back to Pet Project, everyone. We're joined once again with Becca Lawrence from the Lloydminster and Community SPCA. We're outside today because we're showing off something special, isn't that right?
Yes, yeah. Today we got 2 puppies off on show and tell today. So these little ones are Hugs and Kisses. So they came in together. We assume they're siblings. They're fairly same in shape, just a little bit different colored. But they're both pretty good, pretty rambunctious little guys. They're not a bonded pair by any means, but they're busy. So we're hoping to find them homes, whether that's with other dogs. We're not sure how they are with cats, but and we figure they're around about 6 months old.
Okay, so they're still kind of in the puppy phase, so I'm assuming
Yes.
they got a lot of that excess puppy energy. Maybe they could use a little bit of training, you know, probably
Yes.
a good choice for an animal if you are looking for something to exercise with, right? Obviously,
Yes,
that's
yeah.
always a good option if you're looking for, you know, a reason to go out jogging every day. Having a dog is a perfect excuse to do that because you both get your exercise and, you know, everybody's happy. But
Yeah, absolutely.
certainly looks like they're a little bit more on the active side, so.
Yes, that is for sure.
Beautiful. And so, Becca, you guys had your big adoption event last week, and from what I hear, it went really well. So why don't we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had forgotten to post what we did last week. So altogether, we had 56 adoptions in the last 2 weeks, which is fantastic. The vast majority of those were from the event. So the event, we were able to find homes for 43 of our cats and kittens and 2 bunnies. And so that we're extremely, extremely happy about that. You know, we had tons of great people coming in to adopt. And, you know, and some people, even that, you know, sometimes they just can't necessarily, I believe we talked about this last week, you know, sometimes they just can't afford that initial adoption fee, but, you know, they can save that money and put it towards anything that might pop up for them later on. So, you know, we had tons and tons of great people coming in looking for their forever family members, and even a couple that were a little bit better suited for shops and barns and things like that, and they were able to find their homes too.
Which is so wonderful, obviously, right? That's the whole point of this event is to, you know, get those cats out of the shelter, get them good homes, get people good deals, and at the end of the day, you know, everybody wins. So that's great
right,
to hear.
yeah.
And so obviously you guys have freed up quite a bit of space in the shelter then with the cats getting out. And from what I hear, you guys have also moved a lot of your dogs out of the shelter. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. So I mean, these 2 little pups here, and we have a husky that are up for adoption as well. So, and then only really 1 other dog that's up on the floor for viewing. And we got a couple puppies in foster. So, you know, obviously we don't really have too many on the go right now. So that's really great. And yeah, so we do still have some on our waiting list as well. So I mean that we will be calling off our waiting list to get those dogs into. And then obviously tons and tons of cats that will be calling off the waiting list to get these stray and surrendered animals in as well.
There you go. So obviously, like, you know, if you're in the market for a dog, keep an eye on the SPCA because they're coming in. And perhaps if last week, you know, at the adoption event, you couldn't find the exact cat that you were looking for, there will be a new stock, so to speak, in the SPCA coming up. So, you know, cats, dogs, whatever you're looking for, keep an eye out, see as they come into the shelter, and you might find, you know, the perfect fit for yourself, which would be wonderful. And so real quick here as well, Becca, just to close it off, you guys had a post this week on your Instagram, which was super adorable and kind of brings to light, you know, a little bit of the extra work that you guys do, which is to help some really needy animals as far as medical care goes. So you guys had a cute little bearded dragon who had some health problems recently, and you posted about it on your Instagram. The name was Ember. So why don't we talk about them a little bit here?
Yeah, so Ember, you know, he came in seemingly quite healthy, bearded dragon. And, you know, just as from watching him and making sure, you know, checking the medical assessments, things like that, we found out that the end of his tail had begun to rot. So, just one of those things that pops up sometimes. So that is a huge part of our medical fund. So those are the special cases that we put that money aside for, is to treat animals like that. Any animal that might need an amputation or anything extra other than a regular spay and neuter. So animals like Ember, so that they can carry on and go find their forever home still, and just so that we can give them the extra help.
Yeah, so there you go, everybody. If, like, obviously when you make a donation to the SPCA, you're saving animal lives, but this is a way that you very specifically are, helping an animal who's in extra special need. So that is a great option if you really want to feel good about where your money is going. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have this week. I want to thank you, Becca. I want to thank the puppies for stopping by and saying hi. And we will be sure to speak with you guys again next week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Manage your waste and recyclables with Quick Pick Waste Disposal. 100% locally owned and proud to serve and support the communities we call home. Quick Pick, the convenient solution to avoid pollution.
Tom McFarland with the British electronic group Jungle joins us here today on Primetime Local News. Tom, for those that haven't heard about your group, how would you describe your music for the viewers that are just getting to know Jungle for the first time?
How would I describe Jungle? I guess it's just fun, it's uplifting, it's energetic, and yeah, it's music that doesn't take itself too seriously, but also has like a deeper meaning if you want to go there and you want to find out a little bit more. And there's always like a hidden like layer and dimension. But yeah, like it's upbeat. We love groove-based music, whether it's hip hop, funk, soul, disco. That's the most important thing to us is a good bass line and some drums that make you want to move your body.
When I was having a chance to listen to the album, there's several tracks that feature instruments or sounds that, don't fit with that traditional rock band kind of style. Talk about being that new kind of rock group that you guys are.
Yeah, we use a lot of like found sounds, Foley, whether it's using like squashing a soda can to like make a snare drum sound, or we've once like played the hinges of a door which used to squeak, and like we recorded those and essentially did like a hinge solo on one of the tracks once. I think we just enjoy the kind of like the silliness and the silly nature of like finding weird sounds, and also it makes your music feel more unique. You know what I mean? You're not just using something that anyone else can use. It's like completely imaginative and a sort of like an all immersive creative experience.
Was there one track from this album that gave you guys the most trouble to produce or to get the right sounds out of?
I think, tracks like Keep Moving are always difficult to get right, because from a very early stage in making that song that it's going to connect with a lot of people. You just can hear it, like you can hear the hook, you can hear the melody. The lyric is super simple. And yeah, so it's just about not messing that one up. And I think that's where like you spend the most time, is like trying to finish something, but also trying to finish it in the right way, in the way that the song and the idea deserves to be finished, rather than like kind of getting like cold feet about it and going down like the wrong path for 2 days. But that happens with tracks, and you've just got to accept that. And it was just about capturing that early energy. That was super important for us.
Tom, can you give us a sense on how COVID was in the UK early on and how that ultimately impacted you guys getting your second album finished?
I mean, like we were lucky that we'd made the record really by the time everything sort of had to come to a halt. The big recording session when we finished making the album was sort of like end of 2019. And I guess it just gave us a chance to like sit there with the record, like understand it a bit better, and then really start formulating some great ideas for how we were going to visually represent the record in terms of the rest of the aesthetic, the videos and the artwork and all of that kind of stuff. So, we were quite lucky that we didn't have any significant touring that was like wiped out. We've got a lot of friends who like lost years and years of touring, and whose albums are now probably like too old to be able to go and tour with, because obviously the public's moved on, new music's been coming out, and that's just how the industry works. It's kind of just like your yesterday's news, even if you've released a record yesterday. Do you know what I mean? So, we want to keep reactive to that. We want to make more music quicker. I think that's definitely like a place that we can see going now, is like having this confidence from this third record under our belts. Hopefully we can be a bit more free and easy with our creativity.
as a rock group? Are you thinking about doing some collaborations down the road, or have other artists reach out to you to do stuff with them? What's been kind of the story so far with that?
Recently, we did. Recently, Diplo released a track that we sort of like did some vocals on ages ago, and like we sort of completely forgot about it. And a couple of months ago, he was like, "Yo, I'm going to release that tune." And we were like, "What tune?" And then he sent it over, and we were like, "Oh, that tune, yeah, cool." So yeah, that was quite fun and exciting. And there's 2 features on this record at rapper called Bars that we met in Coney Island at a festival in 2018. He became a good friend and ended up collaborating on the record. And also a Swiss Tamil singer called Priya Raghu, and she's really cool. We met her through our manager in London, and again, just had a great time. Got in the studio and made a really good song. So yeah, in terms of collaboration, I think we're at a place now where we just feel confident handing over the sort of the keys to Jungle in a way and letting other people do their thing and represent it.
Tom, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us. Jungle's new album, Loving in Stereo, is out now everywhere. Tom, thanks very much.
Cheers, mate. Take care, Connor.
We'll now take another look at your 7-day forecast here on Wednesday and Thursday. We'll see a high of 20 on Wednesday and a high of 17 on Thursday, but we will be seeing that high of 17 on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so we will be dropping a couple degrees cooler there, and expect a mix of some sun and cloud throughout the week on Thursday. And Friday and Saturday, we'll see a little bit more sun peeking behind those clouds, and on Sunday, we'll see a little more cloud coverage with a higher chance of some precipitation there going into next week on Monday with a high of 14 and a lot more cloudier skies, but Tuesday we will see a high of 16 with a mix of some sun and cloud.
Thank you for joining us on Primetime Local News. Have a great night.